Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is seeing the unseen. And really, what we're going to be talking about is those revelatory moments when all of a sudden our perception shifts or our context shifts, and we have an experience of seeing something for the very first time, something that may have been there all along, but we just didn't even recognize it. So I think that'll be a fun conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating this brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And now let's, as you exhale, release any remaining tension, any remaining stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's place our palms together and softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel the tingling, the tickling, that wonderful, wonderful sensation, and allow that sensation to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind, and good morning, Gia. So great to have you ladies here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Today, we're talking about seeing the unseen. And this conversation is coming about because the other day I had such a shift of awareness or shift of perception that just was so remarkable that it startled me. Good morning, Kimberly. So good to have you here with us. So I have this bedspread that I have had for years. And I was sitting in my bedroom the other day and I looked at the bedspread and I saw it maybe for the first time, where I saw the richness of color in it. I saw the richness of pattern in it. Now, I've had this thing for years, and never have I been so drawn into it, into the experience of it, and the delight of its true beauty. I mean, it is a beautiful thing. It was given to me by a friend who no longer wanted it, and it's really, really beautiful. And I never saw how beautiful it was until the other day. I mean, I think I thought it was pretty, but I never really experienced the beauty of it. And it shocked me to recognize that here I've had this thing for forever and never saw it. And so I thought, what an interesting thing to be looking at, how we are living in our environments and are often oblivious to to our surroundings, and not just our surroundings, but it made me wonder, well, what else am I not noticing? What else has been there all along that I never recognized? And I think that this is, what else am I not seeing? I think it's a great question for us to start cultivating a deeper awareness, to be asking, what would it be like to see what I'm not seeing? What am I not seeing? And this is, this can exist on all different levels, right? It can exist on levels of conflict with other people, right? It's like, okay, so here's this conflict. What am I not seeing in this interaction, in this relationship? What am I not seeing? What else is available to be revealed to me that would broaden my perception and my awareness? We can look at it, we can look at ourselves and our own internal dynamics to get greater clarity about our reactions to things. Like if we get triggered, sometimes when we get triggered, we get in this loop, and it is like the hamster wheel where we're just going round and round and round. And maybe one way to get us out of the loop is to say, what else might I see about this? What else? Or, for those of us who aren't as visually oriented, what am I not hearing? Or what am I not sensing that I could potentially be sensing that would offer greater understanding or greater balance, greater compassion, greater connection through this circumstance? So I don't know if you guys have ever had that kind of experience. It's just so interesting where there's this shift of awareness that then changes the context for everything. And I'm reminded of a situation with Maggie. For those of you who don't know Maggie, she was this marvelous little spirit in the form of a green cheek conure that I was blessed to have be part of my life for a little less than a year. But Maggie was a terror. And she was such a big personality, but one of the she ate everything. So one of the things that she was committed to eating was this plant that I love, which is a night blooming cereus. It's this crazy wild plant. Anyway, Maggie would eat it, and it was in the windowsill, and she would just chomp on this plant, and I would chase her away and try and get her to leave the plant alone. She wouldn't leave the plant alone. And I was just perplexed by how to stop Maggie from eating the plant. And we've been talking about perspectives this week, and talking about how shift of perspective shifts a whole incredible experience. And so instead of focusing on trying to get Maggie not to eat the plant, when I shifted my focus on how can I protect the plant, all of a sudden I realized that there were curtains there. They're sheer curtains in front of the plant, draped and tied up, but that if I let the curtain down, it would cover the plant. I would still get the sunlight and the plant would be protected. And it was that shift of perspective that enabled me to see a possibility that had been there all along that I just hadn't even noticed. So that's what I'm talking about, how, seeing the unseen, moving into the realm of possibility. We've talked this week about the problem with problem solving and moving from problem to possibility. And that's really what we're talking about here too, is this opening of our eyes. It's like the veil is lifted. So Rosalind says, just being here and aware requires allowing with no objective. I think that what you're saying, there's a really important key in what you're saying, Rosalind, and that is to bring ourselves to presence. Rosalind says, Maggie Poo, I love you. I do too. I do too. I talk to her every day. She's very, very present for me. Yeah. Anyway, so allowing with no objective is I'm interpreting as presence. And when we are able to be present without agenda in a given moment, then things are revealed to us, our experience of life, our experience of our surroundings, our experience of our beingness shifts. It shifts because we're free from the projections, or we're freer from the projections that we impose on everything around us, on our experience. Good morning, Elaine. Wonderful to have you here with us. We are talking about seeing the unseen. What is it? Lifting the veil, so to speak. There's a wonderful, wonderful painting by Salvador Dali of this child who is lifting up the edge of water and looking underneath to see the fish that are there, and whatever else is beneath the surface. And it makes me think of this lifting of the veil, where we are gifted access to a fuller dimension of experience. And I think that this occurs when, as you alluded to, Rosalind, when our preconceptions are stripped away, that we can be receiving. So allowing, as you said, Rosalind, and receiving. And in that state, we talked earlier this week also about the full cup, and how there's no ability to receive when there's a full cup. And there's, in this place of receiving, in this place of presence, there is sort of a childlike innocence and openness to the newness of things, the wonder of things. And I just I find it fascinating. It was almost, I can say it was not almost, it was an altered state for me to be seeing this beauty that was right there all the time, right in front of me, that I hadn't previously recognized. And the intricacy of the pattern and the colors. This is in a bedspread that I've had for years. All of a sudden I was sitting and I was looking, and it was shocking to be able to see this with a whole new appreciation. Kimberly says, I've been with my husband for 20 years and I lost appreciation for him just a few months ago. The veil was lifted and saw the beauty in our love and how wonderful he truly is. This is such a beautiful thing to hear, Kimberly. Wow, that's amazing. And yes, so the things that are constants in our environment, we learn to take for granted, right? We stop seeing the things that are right there. And I'm not just talking about material things, but but emotional things, uh, um, relational things. Uh, we stop seeing the things that are there because they are persistent, because they are constant. And in fact, even with this bedspread, I can say that it may be because for a moment, welcome, Sophia. So good to have you here with us. It may be that, I had sent it to get cleaned. I sent it to the cleaners and I got it back. I had it back for a couple weeks at least, but maybe it was that it had not been there for a little while and that it was back that enabled me to have this appreciation for it. I don't know, but it was an altered state. It was an altered experience of awareness that was very dramatic and delightful. And so I wonder, because there was this receptivity, this ability in that moment to really allow the richness of the perception. Years ago, I read a book by Aldous Huxley, and it was about altered state that I think it was brought on for him through experimenting with mescaline or some hallucinogenic substance. I'm not certain, but he was talking about the doors of perception and talking about how rather than the mind being something that is perceiving everything and here to glean all this information, that instead perhaps it was a filtering device that filtered out a lot of information so that we would be able to survive. Because if we allowed ourselves to be completely immersed in the wonder of our universe, we might forget to eat, we might forget to sleep. We would be so entranced by the sensations and by the sensory input that we would never do anything, including eat. So, it's an interesting thing when we've been talking about habits. And I think that we have a habit of seeing, we have a habit of not seeing, actually, is more the truth of it, I believe. So Elaine says, the veil is thinning now, all are awakening in our own way, all is a gift to shift the human experience, to let go of the past and or future and truly be present and open to change, moving beyond the conditioned mind. That's what this is all about, 100%, Elaine, that we are approaching a radical shift in collective consciousness. And I think so many of us can feel it. We feel this lifting of the veil. We feel the rumblings, culturally. Certainly there are lots and lots of rumblings. There's a heightening of energetic state. If humans were molecules, we can feel the human environment vibrating at a higher energy state. And we know that quantum shifts, what's happening is energy gets put into the system, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a quantum shift. And it certainly feels like that's what's occurring. And we see it in terms of disruption, and we see it in terms of geopolitical events. We see it in terms of climate. We see it in terms of nature. It's pretty much the evidence of this increasing energetic state seems to be everywhere as we look around. Rosalind says attention and prolonged awareness requires background of silence to be experienced. And interesting, Rosalind, that you say that way, because our world is getting noisier and noisier. I mean, there are studies about the impact of noise pollution on our well-being, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being that indicate that it can be exceedingly damaging. Physiologically, noise pollution. And so taking moments of silence to silence ourselves in a deliberate and conscious way is all that much more important for our well-being, for sure. So Elaine says, we always survive, we always do. We now have an opportunity to move beyond survival and truly be aliveness in the now. So, it's interesting to think about always, because always is still contextually based in our own experience, right? And I think we can say that life persists, and it may not persist in the forms that we recognize as living, but if we look at the cosmos, it's a living system. And the definition there of living is emergence. So I recently, I was listening to a talk where someone said that the definition of life is life is emergent. In other words, there's some kind of something evolving and growing and changing, and that is a living system. It's emergent. It's constantly becoming. And I thought that was just such a magnificent, perfect definition. So Elaine says, silence is not the absence of noise, it is the essence of awe. I like that, Elaine. This is like a koan. Silence is not the absence of noise, it is the essence of awe. And if we fall into that, if we fall into that essence of all, I believe that it's not so that's where we find our inner silence. And from that space, I totally get it. It has nothing to do with noise. It has to do with this presence, this alignment, and falling into the essence. And also in that place, it is also all sound and no sound. I had an experience once where I fell into this space of consciousness where there was a roar, just this incredible, profound roaring sound, and it felt like it was all the sounds of the universe, all the and I see that on the other side of that is the nothingness, the no sound, all sound, no sound. I don't know if that's making sense, but it was a profound experience. And in some it was overwhelming. It was an overwhelming experience to have that awareness that it felt like all the sounds in the universe all at once, the sound of the universe. And it wasn't the harmony of the spheres, I can tell you that. It was just a huge, overwhelming tidal wave of sound and the energy of that sound. So Elaine says, if you remember a past life, even one, you've been around a while, with a laughy face, tears of laughter. Elaine says, life itself is indescribable. There are no words. Well, certainly when we get to the essence of things, that's where we recognize the limitations of our language, for sure. Rosalind says, seeing the unseen for me occurred when listening to music. I never really paid attention to the words until recently. I picked songs that I liked the melody of sometimes. The experience is like listening to a song with more depth. I love that, Rosalind. So, seeing the unseen in your case, it was a hearing the unheard, right? Like hearing something for the first time. We might have music, we might sing songs even, and then all of a sudden there's a moment when we hear it for the first time, and it's a whole, or we hear it differently, we hear it newly for the first time with a whole new depth and dimension to it. It's really quite a remarkable experience to have that kind of revelatory moment, to be recognizing something that has been there all along, but we're just coming into a new awareness about it. It's remarkable. And Elaine says, there's only knowing from within. Beliefs come and go for me. That is of the conditioned mind. I agree. Beliefs, it's so interesting. Years and years ago, I believed that beliefs were fixed, like these are my beliefs. And then with age and experience came the awareness that, beliefs change. And in fact, that's a big part of my core connection work, is working with shifting beliefs to find beliefs that empower us. So indeed, beliefs are tools, and they are a function of our conditioned mind, and our it's interesting because it's a chicken and egg thing. We perceive things based on our beliefs, and we believe things based on our perceptions. People say seeing is believing. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe, it doesn't necessarily connect to truth. Good morning, Dido. So good to have you here with us. And Kimberly says, replying to Rosalind, listen to the Moody Blues very first album. So I'm guessing that there are wonderful things to hear. I think, it's kind of too also tasting things. How about tasting things for the very first time, or tasting something new, something that you've had and consumed in the past a multitude of times, and then actually being present to tasting it in a whole new way. Sometimes when, what came to mind is wine tasting, when we have a better awareness, when we are schooled in something, then we are able to perceive elements of it that we might not have been prior able to perceive. So, when we talk about the flavors of a wine, for instance, when we identify certain elements, then we might awaken our taste to it because we've awakened our awareness to that possibility. It's just the world of senses is something that we can expand and as we expand those sensory experiences, we expand our awareness, and as we expand our awareness, we can expand our sensory experiences. Elaine says, shifting and awakening is part of the freedom, freeing oneself up to experience more of one's true self beyond fear. And there is no fear in our true self. And that's my addition. But absolutely, it is about freedom. And freedom is about stripping away or releasing the hold that our beliefs and our preconceptions have for us. So thank you all. Thank you all. This is as usual, so wonderful to be having this engagement with you guys. I so appreciate you and your contributions and your perspectives. And that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. I go live here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on EWN One with the Earth, Enlightened World Living, and of course, the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again here really, really soon. So much love to you.